Hi there, and welcome to the first episode of the Inside Track, the Scottish Sun's new racing programme. I've got top tipster JIm Delahunt here with me to talk through the weekend's action. We'll be with you on a Friday to look at the racing that's coming up. And as most of you already know, Jim does a column for us on a Thursday and a Sunday. He puts up plenty of winners. So it's must read. You must read it every week if you want to, before you put your bets on. Jim, how are you? You looking forward to 3 days at Cheltenham?
Absolutely, Robert. Looks a tremendous meeting. I know some of the fields are maybe smaller than we expected. Although I say that, but of course we've had small fields all week, all around Britain, and even in Ireland, there's been some small fields as well. So obviously that's a result of the ground being quicker than expected for this time of year. But a lot of trainers are taking a chance with their horses, and it's paying off for them. They're picking up some nice prizes that a lot of other trainers are ignoring. But yeah, looking forward, Cheltenham and Navan this weekend. Absolutely fantastic. 3 days at Cheltenham, 2 days at Navan, Robert, Saturday and Sunday. There's other racing around the country. Wetherby's fields are a little bit disappointing. I think you would have to say a couple of four-runner races there. And of course, Newcastle keeping us going in the all-weather just in case it all goes horribly wrong for the jumps. But this weekend, I think the weather's fine. I don't think we're going to have anything dramatic as an abandonment. And I think we can enjoy some absolutely superb racing.
You were at Ayr earlier in the week. What are the trainers and jockeys saying about this dry spell? Because it's really unseasonably dry at the moment, isn't it?
It really is, Robert. The thing about Ayr during the week was on Monday, our clerk of the course, Graham Anderson, put out a very, very accurate going report, which was good to firm in places. Now, the very word firm these days with jump trainers just puts them off completely. And despite the fact that Graham said we're going to water, we're going to start with good ground on Wednesday, that word firm does put them off. We did race with good ground on Wednesday at Ayr. The fields were small-ish. We had a couple of very disappointing fields, especially in the chases. But I do all the jockey interviews when they're coming back in off the horses, Robert, and every single one of them said it was absolutely beautiful ground. So I think some of the trainers might have regretted not running because there were opportunities there. There are opportunities on good ground that they can take advantage of, but just I think there's a historical thing amongst jump trainers in particular that they don't like the thought of running their horses on fast ground. The thought that one race could put them out for a year. But some take a chance and it does pay off for some.
It seems to be this time of the season as well. They don't like putting them out first time or early in the season on quicker ground, do they? Maybe in the spring they'd be more inclined to take that chance.
You're absolutely right. And of course, the thing about jump racing, and it's a problem which many people have addressed, and I dare say that we're not the only ones thinking about it, but the problem with jump racing is so many people are geared towards the spring festivals, particularly Cheltenham. Aintree comes into that equation as well. In Ireland, they of course they have horses laid out for Cheltenham, but they've got so many other targets during the season, and you very rarely see races not filling up in Ireland. Okay, they might have three, four, five, six runner grade ones over the winter, but the big handicaps are always full. And I think the problem in Britain will be that the trainers really have to think a little more short term than long term. But trying to convince them of that is going to be the problem. I'm just not sure that that's going to be something that's going to happen anytime soon. I think Cheltenham and Aintree are going to dominate the agenda over the winter, and many trainers will take one look at ground that doesn't have the word soft in it and automatically not run.
Yeah. You mentioned Ireland there, Jim. We've got 2 day meeting at Navan where the likes of Bob Ollinger's coming back out, Banbridge, Slade Steele, we're waiting to find out if he's been declared. I mean, that's really up and coming meeting, isn't it? Is there a chance that's going to start overshadowing Cheltenham's 3 day meeting at some point?
Some people in Ireland will tell you that it does overshadow Cheltenham this weekend, but I mean, it really is a fantastic card at Navan. The Saturday card is absolutely superb with a Grade 2 Lismullen hurdle, a horse that I fancy in that, which I'll come to in a second. And also we've got the Fortria Chase. That features Banbridge, which is Scottish owned, of course. Ronnie Bartlett owns that one. It's in training with Joseph O'Brien in Ireland. Banbridge will carry top weight in that Fortria Chase. Captain Guinness, the champion chaser, is going to come back out for Henry de Bromhead in that race. And of course, Rachel Blackmore's still injured. She's missing an awful lot of winners these days. Dara O'Keefe is the man who's really cashing in on all those Henry de Bromhead winners. So that's a really good race. There's a beginner's chase, which I wouldn't even know where to start. There's five or six in there, which could end up at Cheltenham in March. And there I've fallen into the trap as well. Newburgh Ring is one of the ones that I was looking at in that beginner's chase. That did me a real big favourite, Galway, the other day. And I think that beginner's chase could throw up some real amount of winners. I'll just throw in the one that I really fancy at Navan on Saturday, Robert, and that is a horse called Jitara. It's trained by Jesse Harrington. It's going to be ridden by Donna Myler on Saturday. It runs in that Lismullen hurdle. I don't think it'll be anywhere near favourite because we've got Home by the Lee in that race, as you mentioned. Bob Ollinger's in that race as well. Jatara ran at the Curragh the other day, won a flat maiden, and I thought won it very, very nicely indeed. She's always a mare that I've had my eye on. I think she is well up to this Grade 2 level. I think she'll love the 2.5 miles, and she might just cause a minor surprise.
Well, we'll go back to Navan later on, but we'll start off at Cheltenham. And I believe you think Dan Skelton's in for a big weekend.
Yeah, he's got a lot of runners on Friday, and of course we're looking principally at Saturday at the moment, Robert. But I think Dan Skelton could have a fantastic Saturday. We'll come to the big race in a moment, which I think will be won by Jamie Snowden. But Dan Skelton's got three in particular that I think are well worth looking at this weekend. In the Arkle trial, which is run at 1:45, he's got a horse called L'Eau de Sud. Now, this is where I'm going for a favourite. I'm going for the 6-5 favourite here. It'll be ridden by Harry, of course, his brother. What a tremendous partnership they have. This horse was second in the Betfair hurdle. That's the old Schweppes to you and me. Second in the county hurdle at Cheltenham. And then fifth in the Scottish champion hurdle. So top class handicap hurdle form, but he's always looked a chaser. And I think he'll win this Arkle Challenge trophy after having his victory the other day. I think he'll be well up to winning that. The other horses that I like from the Skelton Yard at Cheltenham on Saturday are in the handicap hurdle at 2:55, Doyen Quest. Now, this is a horse which I think it's trading at the moment round about 11 to 4, 3 to 1. Probably go off favourite, but that's a decent price in a handicap hurdle, of course. Carries 10 stone 10. Ran a really nice race first time out this season at Chepstow, second to a horse called Josh the Boss. I haven't seen it written or said anywhere that he did need the run, but I just thought to my eyes, he looked as if he just needed the run. And I think he'll be absolutely spot on for this £30,000 race on Saturday. That's Doyen Quest in the 2:55. And is it really possible that the Skeltons could have a treble? Well, they had one at Ayr just a couple of weeks ago with some minor horses. I think they could have a treble with Major Fortune, which goes for the Paddy Power Intermediate Handicap hurdle at 3:30. This is one of these syndicate horses, which is cost a lot of money and is doing very well indeed. I think this one could beat some much more fancied horses like Hamsian. Now, Hamsian is trained by Tony Martin of Alphonse Legrand fame, and he's just been handed the Cesarewitch back after losing it to Manxman in the steward's room in London. Tony saddles Hamsian, which I'm told at the moment is the anti-post favourite. The other one there, which Ben Pauling thinks could be a Grade 1 hurdler in the making. So a handicapper, a Grade 1 horse lurking in a handicap, according to Ben Pauling, is Champagne Twist. But I really liked the way Major Fortune won the other day, and I think about 5 to 1, he could be real value in that 3:30 at Cheltenham on Saturday. So a Skelton hat-trick for me.
What do you, in that Arkle trial, Jim, what do you see the main dangers are? I know Paul Robson, a good Scot, has taken Breeze River down after winning the Simply Ned at Kelso. Do you think he's got the ability to shake it up a little bit?
I'd love to see him do so, Robert. Breeze River's a very, very good horse indeed. I know Paul Robson rates that horse very highly indeed, and people close to the stable do so as well. There's another couple of horses in there I didn't mention. Petit Tonnerre for the two John Joes, whose form is absolutely outstanding at the moment. They are firing in winners right, left and centre. And also Lookaway for Neil King, which won first time out a couple of weeks ago. But L'Eau de Sud for me is just, he looks a class above. I'd love to see Breeze River get in the frame and really mix it up with them. But L'Eau de Sud for me, but it's a race to watch, very much so. And it's a well-named Arkle trial.
The Paddy Power at 2:20 is the feature race of the meeting. And I mean, I know you've got a strong fancy in that, but if we could just talk about when you approach this race, what are the things you look for in a horse to win this race? I mean, we know pace is important in any race, but in these circumstances, this race traditionally, you really want to be up with the front, don't you?
You really do, and I think it's a big thing that GA Law has course form. He's got fantastic course form at Cheltenham. He's won on the old and the new tracks over the same 2.5 miles at Cheltenham. That's a big thing because a lot of horses like one, don't like the other, but GA Law has winning form over the old and the new course at Cheltenham. I did actually have a conversation with Jamie Snowden about a year ago about various other horses, and this horse featured very heavily in his chat that day. GA Law, I think even at 8 years old, there's still a little bit of mileage in his handicap mark. He's up there £10 behind Protectorate. I think he's nicely weighted. I think he had a really nice comeback run at Chepstow. I think that'll have put him spot on. I can understand why Ginny's Destiny's favourite, top class form with Grey Dawning, of course. All that form ties in with Grey Dawning, another Skelton horse, which isn't running this weekend. But Ginny's Destiny will be the favourite. There's no doubt about that. Harry Cobden, very sweet on that one's chances. But I think GA Law at about the 5-1, 11-2 mark is the one to be on. The course form in this race, and as you say, up with the pace, very big for me.
Yeah, with Ginny's Destiny and Editor De Geet in the race, they won't be hanging around, will they?
They won't be hanging around in this race, and I think the fact that GA Law has the course form, we know he stays the 2.5 on either track at Cheltenham, and he probably stays further if we're being perfectly honest. I think whatever the pace is up front, and like you, I think it'll be pretty sharp. GA Law will be fine. So that's the one for me in the big one, the Paddy Power.
We always like to see these horses carrying big weights in the handicaps and trying to overcome that. What's your take on Protector at running off 167?
Bizarrely, it's the only Harry Skelton horse I'm not tipping this weekend, and he does justify that at top weight. There's absolutely no doubt about that. They don't seem to be bothered running that first time out top weight in a handicap like this. I'm sure it'll run a huge race, absolutely sure. But you have to take a view in these handicaps, and I think with GA Law getting £12 from the top weight, that'll do for me.
We mentioned the other on about Wetherby, how they'll be sorely disappointed. I think they've only got 34 runners over their 7 races. But is there anything on the Wetherby and the Newcastle cards that stick out for you this week?
Well, I think you mentioned Paul Robson, and I think Cannock Park is down to run at the moment at Wetherby in the 12:27. So we'll see what Paul decides closer to the time. Sean Quinlan's down to ride that one. That's a very good horse indeed. Had a run 3 weeks ago and will probably be a lot straighter if Paul decides to take him to Wetherby. It's a limited handicap chase over the basic 2 miles. That'll be interesting. Pay the Piper's always worth a second look. He runs in the 2 mile, 3.5 handicap chase at 1:35. You mentioned Newcastle. A couple of listed races there, Robert, both on ITV. The Churchill Stakes over 1.25 miles at 3:15, and also the Golden Rose Stakes over 6 furlongs at 3:48. I'd be less interested in the second one, although if Anaf for Mick Appleby is 100%, I would imagine that would probably just about win under Jason Watson. But the one I think to be interested in the opening race, the Churchill Stakes, is Tyrrhenian Sea. It's trained by Roger Varian, who has his horses in magnificent winter form. I'd never be worried about a Roger Varian horse first time out. This horse hasn't run for 266 days, but he's got course form here at Newcastle. He looked a very good horse. He has looked a very good horse at times during his career. He's now 6, so he hasn't quite got there yet. But Jack Mitchell in the saddle, he's a couple of pounds off top rating. But I think Tyrrhenian Sea, if Varian has him fit, I think he will. Could be good enough to win that opener, the Churchill Stakes, the listed race at 3:15.
Well, that wraps up Saturday. Now we'll move on to Sunday. Maybe head back to Cheltenham, the Great Woods, the feature race on the card. And you mentioned earlier on about graded horses running in handicaps. And do you think the Dysart Enos in the Great Wood might just be one of those?
Yeah, huge fan of Dysart Enos. I really think this mare is very, very classy. Now, she hasn't run for a while, but what people sometimes forget is that she was declared on the day at Cheltenham, and she was declared on the day at Aintree, and was taken out of both races. First time because of the ground, second time because of first time because of a minor injury, second time I think because of the ground. Fergal O'Brien, I've spoken to Fergal a few times about this mare as well. I think Dysart Enos is very, very classy. Off a mark of 131 in the Great Wood first time out. I think that's the time to back her. Johnny Burke has struck up a fantastic association with Fergal so far, now that Paddy Brennan is out of the picture. Dysart Enos, if she's going to win a big race, it's going to be first time out off this handicap mark, and then we can see what happens later on in terms into going into graded hurdles, whether she stays down the mare's route or whether she goes into open company. But Dysart Enos, for me, I don't want to write off a very classy field. I think there's one or two others which merit a mention. Ollie Murphy's Go Dante, I think, will run a very big race as well, although whether he can give £4 to Dysart Enos, I'd be very, very doubtful if Dysart Enos is really on firing on all cylinders. And the other one I think we should give a mention to here is Cracking Rhapsody for Ewan Whillans. Ewan wouldn't have many runners in big races like this, but this horse has got some very, very decent form and a good handicap at Kelso. Craig Nicol, he's been riding sparingly over the past few weeks, but he's been riding winners And that one's not badly handicapped at all. So Cracking Rhapsody at a big price might run a big race. But Dysart Enos for me, for Fergal and Johnny Burke.
What else is there on the Cheltenham card that you want to flag up?
Yeah, there's one or two. I think worth a mention, but maybe not going heavily on the bet at the moment, is Bangers and Cash in the 255. It's kind of the forgotten horse that always runs well without winning. Ben Pauling's in terrific form. It's away down there at the foot of the handicap on 10 stone 2. I think that'll run a big race later on at 255. But the Pauling Jones horse I want to be interested in at Cheltenham on Sunday is a horse called Leader in the Park. Now, it's a novices limited handicap chase, and he's never run over fences, but won a maiden hurdle at Doncaster, ran well afterwards to finish fourth. In here off a mark of 120 to make his chasing debut. I think the stable think this might be thrown in. I'm not sure of the pricing as yet, Robert, but Leader in the Park is one to watch for an early price on Saturday. I think that'll go very, very close indeed in the 145, the novices handicap chase at Cheltenham on Sunday. And of course, the other big one I'm on there is Dysart Enos in the Great Wood.
And then over at Navan, the Troy Town, the big 3 mile race is packed with quality, a lot of recognisable names. But which one do you fancy, Jim?
Yeah, well, Gordon Elliott dominates this race. We all know that. We don't need me to tell you that. But he trains just up the road from Navan, and this is his big race of the early part of the season, the Troy Town Chase. He's won it quite a few times. American Mike is the horse I like. He appears to have been laid out for the race. He's the pick of Jack Kennedy, who could have ridden any one of the Elliott runners on Sunday. He's got course form. Again, that's key at Navan. He runs very, very well here. I think he's very, very classy as well. And I think off 11 stone, that American Mike is the one to be on. He seems to be the pick of the Elliott team, although they sometimes pop up with one of the horses that's ridden by a claimer further down the handicap. But Jack's picked this one. Jack's ridden the winner of the race just once of Elliott's 6. I think it was when he was 16 way back. But he's riding well at the moment. He's trying very hard to avoid injury. He's been plagued with injuries throughout his career, Jack Kennedy. He would have ridden so many more winners if he hadn't had all those broken bones. I think he'll win the Troy Town on Sunday. It's at 2:30 at Navan on Sunday, and that's with American Mike.
I think the Ireland have had less rain than we've had, and I mean, it's going to be quick ground across here as well. Is that one concern for American Mike? Because most of his form is on soft or heavy.
Yeah, might be good to yielding watered ground, they're saying, at Navan on Saturday and Sunday. I don't think there's any rain forecast of any appreciable note, Robert. So that would be an obvious worry, I think. But I think they've decided to go for this race. This is probably this horse's big race of the season. You know, if he comes out of this and goes up £7 for winning, they'll try and potter around and win a few others. But this is the race that he's been laid out for. And I don't think they'll be too worried about the ground.
Thanks very much, Jim. Really good selections there. You can read Jim on a Thursday and a Sunday in the paper, as well as getting his daily tip in the Scottish Sun every day. So if you buy the paper, you'll be kept abreast of Jim's thoughts each 7 days a week. Thanks very much. Good luck.
Thanks, Robert.